Empire State Building. A landmark scrapes the sky. Where can you go grazing in the afternoon? You can go to the top of the Empire State Building in New York City. Tourists, New Yorkers, and yes stars, famous recording artists, and television and movie actors go there to delight in the awesome view from the observatory. Since the Empire State Building was built in 1930 and 1931, it has been an internationally famous landmark. It was the tallest building in the world for 41 years, for more years than any other skyscraper, and today it still stands tall in Manhattan's skyline. The Empire State Building's skyscraping height makes for some weird signs, as well as breathtaking views. One summer, a scientist filmed and counted 48 lightning strikes on the building, proving that the building is a towering lightning rod. The building is so tall that sunrise occurs about a half hour earlier at the top than at street level. Computer-driven LED lights shine using 60 million different colors at the top of the building, and because of its height, people can see and enjoy the nighttime light shows for many miles around. Amazingly, on a clear day, you can see parts of 5 different states: New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania. Just by walking around the observation deck and looking out at the horizon. A winning team. 2 friends, Alfred E. Smith and John G. Raskob, decided to construct the world's tallest building. Because they both came from poor New York families, the pair had a lot in common. As young men, both dropped out of school to find jobs and support their families. By 1929, however, Raskob was rich and had many wealthy friends who were willing to invest in the skyscraper. Smith was famous after he ran for president of the United States and lost. He was a great talker, though, and supplied the press and exciting stories about the building. Together, they were a winning team. Raskob and Smith knew the site they wanted for the skyscraper, but they had one rather large problem. The famous Waldorf Astoria Hotel was already at that location, so the team bought the hotel. From hotel to hall, tearing down the Grand Hotel was difficult because it was large and built to last for many years. Some 600 men worked day and night to demolish it. Then they dug an enormous hole to reach solid bedrock. This is what the massive skyscraper would sit on. The workers had to dig and blast their way down to 40 feet below street level. As they worked, the fleet of dump trucks hauled 28,529 loads of earth, stone, and the remains of the once poured hotel to barges on the East River. Tugboats pushed the barges out to the ocean and dumped it all. After 5 months, all that remained was a gaping hole. The best show in town. Construction began on April 9, 1930. At the bottom, where the weight of the skyscraper is greatest, 210 columns weighing 44 tons each were set vertically. Then horizontal beams arrived and were connected to the columns to form a strong steel grid. As the grid began to reach for the sky, people stopped and crowded the sidewalks below. They were all looking up at the steel workers balancing the narrow beams. Newspaper reporters said that the workers were the best show in the town and called them Sky Boys. Their work was so dangerous that if one member of the four-man crew got sick, the other three also went home. Crew members had to know and trust each other completely, as having someone new step in could create an unsafe situation. Their job was to fasten the steel beams together with rivets. The heaver got a rivet red hot in his bucket and firing coals, and then tossed it to get through the air. The catcher placed it in the hole in the beam. Then the booker up pushed on one end of the hot rivet with the metal bar as the riveter smashed the other end in with an air hammer, tightly bonding the enormous beams. The best crews were from the Mohawk Nation Americans from New York State, who could set a rivet every minute. Water boys, some as young as 16 years old, watched the high beams too, carrying buckets of cool drinking water to the crews. Some thought it was fun working on the beams, but they quickly learned to focus only on the end of the beam they were on and not to look down. Zoom to the top. Smith and Roscoe were in a big hurry to get their skyscraper finished. Their investors couldn't make money until the building was rented, so everything was planned for speed, even the design of the building. The architect, William F. Lamb, chose the Art Deco style for the building because it was a popular modern look and often used machine-make and ready-to-use supplies. For example, the steel beams arrived with the rivet holes pre-drilled, so the building went up at the incredible rate of 4.5 floors each week. The outside wall was perfectly designed for rapid construction too. Columns of windows and metal plates rose next to the columns of stones, all of which arrived ready to use. On the upper tower, workers finished the outside at the rate of 1 floor per day. By August, the workforce swelled to more than 3,500 workers on the site in a single day. There are more than 60 different kinds of workers on the job. The plumbers needed pipe, the bricklayers needed bricks, every worker needed supplies. In those days, supplies were moved by wheelbarrow. But in such a large building, this method was too slow. Instead, the builders laid tracks around each floor and even in the elevator. As the supplies were delivered, they were loaded straight into the big carts. Then workers pushed the carts along the tracks, into elevators and around the floors quickly. With so many workers, there were plenty of injuries, so the builders opened their own hospital right in the building. The large number of workers even made lunch a problem. With so many workers trying to get food at once, many started coming back late. Lateness was something the builders couldn't tolerate because it slowed work down. Their solution was to build cafeterias right on the site. The first ones were on the 3rd, 9th, and 24th floors. As the building grew taller, two more were added, one on the 47th floor and the other on the 64th floor. The builders or contractors were supposed to stick structure schedule as they did, they not only planned everything, but they also kept track of everything, such as how many bricks were laid and how much plaster was applied. With so much careful planning, you might think everything went well. It didn't. One plan was a huge failure. Al Smith wanted the spire that rose above the 86th floor to be a stopping spot for airships. These airships, or dirigibles, were the modern way to travel back then. Smith and passengers could simply walk down a plank of the dirigible on the 102nd floor. Then they could take the elevator down and be on the Fifth Avenue in minutes. It all sounded great, but when the first airship got close to the mast, the winds were too strong. The winds around the skyscraper are always too strong, so the plan was dropped. Al Smith was right. The Empire State Building opened on May 1st, 1931. A little over a year after the first steel columns were set in place, the speed with which the tallest buildings in the world was constructed set a record that has not been broken to this day. Just after the building's 15th birthday, it was declared a landmark, which means that by law it must be preserved to appear just as it always has. Today, the world's most famous office building is still the prominent feature of New York City's skyline. Al Smith was absolutely right when he declared that the building had been built for generations to come.